The other day I went to the local bakery and asked for some shortbread. They said they didn't make it any longer. Hey kids, Adam here. Today we're going to record some bass for the new song Future by my band Underground Hive that will be appearing in the new mix course that I will be doing sometime this summer. So a few videos ago I'll put a card up for the drum editing funk drums. This is the song. And now I finally got around to getting my life in order, got bass recorded, and I've sent it along to the guitarist. I'm going to show you how I did the bass recording. I'm not going to actually use the tracks that I use here because there's a number of things that I'm not going to go into as much detail on, but I'm going to show you how I record bass, how I do punch-ins, how I line up everything, how I prepare a project for me recording bass, what I do to the drums, how I get everything figured out, and so I can just record like the perfect bass take and go on. Now, before we start, there's a couple things. Put new strings on your bass. Now that you'll hear that all the time when people say when you go to record, put new strings on, especially on bass. However, this song being more of a 70s funk style, I didn't want as bright of strings as would normally be on a brand new set of strings. So I've played these for a couple months. I like the sound of them. I didn't want to record with new strings. I actually did some test recordings. I thought they sounded great, so I'm going to let them go. Next thing, always remember to keep tuning. I have this little Korg tuner here. I don't know if the camera will focus on it or not. You can use Retune for tuning. There's a number of tuning plugins you can use. Any of the guitar amp sims should have a tuner on it. I want to say tune before every take that you do. Now, if you're recording 1-2 measure clip over and over again, you don't have to do that. But every full take you do, make sure you tune your guitar, tune your bass, make sure everything's in tune. The worst thing that I've ever had to deal with, well, one of the worst things I've had to deal with was an out-of-tune instrument when I'm mixing, because it's just a pain to try to get that fixed. Most of the time I just ask the person to re-record it. So last thing you need to do, practice. Practice. Make sure you know your parts in and out. Make sure you're not relying on visual aids. Make sure you're not relying on like the rest of the band for cues that won't be there. And that's all I can say. So let's head over to Reaper. I'll show you all my tips and tricks, how I record a bass line. Let's go. All right, here we are in Reaper. You may remember from the editing drums video that there were some bass tracks. Now, one of the things that we struggle with as musicians in like home recording studios and things these days, we can't really get a whole band together to record together. Either we don't have the room, we don't have the microphones, we don't have isolation, we don't have the equipment. It's a number of different things. I know a lot of you guys are like recording in your bedroom or your basement like I am, and you don't have room for acoustic drums. You can't get all four of your guys at once. There's no isolation. Everything's going to bleed together. So what I recommend doing, we do everything one at a time. That may change in the future, but for now we do it. But what I will do is I will play my bass along with when the drummer's recording. Now, I'll record it, but I'm not keeping any of them. And as you see there, I don't even have any bass tracks, so I will not be keeping any of these tracks at all. But it gives the drummer performance, an actual performance to play to, instead of just, click, 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 and have him go and play it by ear. You can do some scratch tracks. In the past, we've done both. In the past, my drummer and I are locked in enough that we can do it with just the bass and just the drums. But whatever you need in there to get the drummer to be a good performance, just be careful that you're not bleeding in through the drum mics. So if you're doing anything like guitar, use an amp sim, everyone has in-ears or headphones or whatever, so that none of the sounds bleed in through the drum mics. So that said, let's get going here. So I do a couple things before I actually record. First, I have to set up my own bass tracks. So I am going to set up 4 tracks here. I'll tell you why in a little bit. The first one I'm going to call bass folder. Second one I'll call bass DI main. Third one I'm going to call bass DI wah, or ENV I'll call it, and then I'll call bass ENV. The first one's going to be in my bass folder, so I'll take these other 3, kind of click and drag them up so they indent, and then want to make these all colored, just because colors are cool. So I'm going to go down to track color. I have the SWS extensions. Look at my video for how to do a mix template up here, and I'll set them all to blue. Now that I have that, I need to record arm my bass. I use my input number 1 on my interface, so it's already set when I hit record arm. turn it down just a hair. You're really aiming for between -18 and -6 dB. You don't want it to go any further because it can peak. You don't want it to go any lower because it may not be hot enough to be able to record. Now that we have our tracks treated, they're the right color, we have input selection, we got our bass tuned up, we have our input gain set, we can start recording, right? Not quite yet. A couple things that I like to do for my own recording. So because I'm following the drums very, very closely, I like to expand the kick track out. Just so I can get a little bit more of an idea of when the notes are coming. And then I zoom in just a little bit. I kind of like to get the whole project on the screen, but sometimes it doesn't really, it doesn't lend itself to that. Right here is about fine. I also want to bump the volume up on the kick, but not only volume, I want to do a little bit of EQ and compression. So we'll go in here, we'll add re-EQ. And my default has like a high pass and a low pass filter on it. I'm going to disable the high pass. I'm going to take the low pass, turn it into a high shelf. Put it at 8K and bump it up, I don't know, 15? That sounds good. You know what? I'll play this and solo it along so you can hear what the differences are. I want to do another bump somewhere in the 2.5 to 3K range. Another bump right where the bass part of the kick drum is going to be, and that's right around 60 for me. And real quick before and after. And this isn't, I mean, it's kind of similar to how I'm going to EQ it in the actual mix if I was using like an SSL channel, but right now I just want stuff to stick out so I can record my bass to it and hear it better. Next thing I want to do is put Recomp on there. And let's see, 4:1 rate. These default sizes, settings should be fine. And I've set it, 3 millisecond attack, release of 100, ratio of 4:1. I'm just going to kind of play it and dial in the threshold and get some good, about 6 dB gain reduction here. It seems pretty good. And then I'm going to take the fader and crank it up. And then with the whole kick, it's going to definitely be, the kick is going to be way too much in the mix, but it'll be better for me to be able to hear it in conjunction with my bass. That should be fine. Don't worry about the clipping. It's because I have it cranked way up. It's going to clip. It's not affecting the bass itself. Even if it clips on the actual master itself, it still won't affect the bass and what I'm recording in. Now that I have that done, I think I'm probably ready to record. Now my strategy here is I want to play through once. Now if I screw up early on, I'll stop and restart. But I want to play through the whole thing once, kind of gauge and see how I felt. As long as I felt okay on it, I'll keep it and then I'll fix things. If I didn't feel okay, and I usually delete it and I usually go. For bass, for me, I don't do full takes and I don't do multiples and then comp apart together. I will do one take all the way through and then fix things as I go, because bass is like the easiest thing to punch in, and I feel that if I've gotten to a level in my recording that I can make it still sound good, sound like a real performance, and sound like you can't even tell. So that said, let's turn the mic off and start here. I didn't like what I was doing there. Wasn't getting high enough on the slide. That's important, kids. Here we go again. All right, so recorded it all the way through. I didn't feel that great about it. Made a number of mistakes in there. Normally I would just delete the track and record. For the sake of this video, let's kind of go through and show you how I would fix some of these things. I'm not going to fix everything. I'll just show you a couple spots on how I would fix them and how to do them differently. There's one spot I want to record another part, and that's where those wah tracks come in. Let's head to the beginning, just kind of start and see what this sounds like. There's a weird note there. You hear that? I don't know if I hit the note funny or what happened there. So I'll show you how to fix these. You could do multiple takes. You could punch in a different track and blend it in. I'm just going to split this, delete the bad part, and re-record over it. So let's find. So the note is right here. I want to find a spot where I can come in and out pretty easily. Looks like it's about here. And what you want to do on your grid, if you right click on the snap to grid, I always set mine to 1/128th. The other thing you can do is turn the grid off, but I find 1/28th when you zoom in far enough, you find a spot you can cut out pretty easily. So here's looks like a good spot. I'm just going to S to split, and let's see. Could probably split this one too, and then I just delete this part. I'd highlight the section here. Right click on your record button, choose record mode time selection auto punch, and then give yourself a couple measures or so before so you can start playing along with it. So I'll just start at the beginning of this chorus. Now when I hit record here, it's only going to record over the parts that I have highlighted. So here we go. I think I screwed that up, but let's listen. Yeah, that was pretty bad. So hit Control Z to undo and do it again. And notice that even though I played before and I played after, it only recorded the part that's selected. I think the kick is a little off there. I'm going to record it again right on this measure 10 here. I'm going to record it again and see if I can get better lined up with the kick there. Move this over a little bit. Listen to it. part, I played a part that I normally put later in the song. I didn't want it in here, but for some reason I played it anyway. So I'm going to redo this part. So I should be able to split right at this measure. And then split out there. So we'll just drag that over. Look that through, start 2 measures. 2 measures seems to be a really good spot to start before things. You can kind of figure out where you are and then start playing along, and then it records. So here we go. We'll listen to that. It sounds pretty good. Now what I want to do is I want to solo the bass out here and zoom way in on this. And what you can do is you can take and drag it over, because it will start recording whenever you start playing. It just only puts it in the project here. And that way, if you do a crossfade there and then a crossfade on the way out, you won't get any clicks or pops or anything when the parts come in and out. And it sounds seamless. It sounds like one bass. It doesn't sound like a part that I punched in. Keep going here. Now these are going to be easy. This one is a little bit off time, especially in those ba-dum-bum-bum-bum-bum. Those notes are a little bit off. I'm just going to take this whole section and not do that. Nice thing about bass is if you're playing it the way a bass player should, you should leave yourself some room in there so that you can punch in and out easily. That's what it is. Doesn't have anything to do with the song or anything. It's just so you can record easier. Here we go. We'll skip forward to the bridge part. I know there's probably some issues here. This is what I'm going to do for everything. I'm going to listen, and parts that I don't think sound very good, I'm going to do this punch-in method, fix the parts. If I can't fix a small part, I'll make it bigger. If there's one little tiny note, maybe I'll try to move it over or whatever. But for the most part, I'm just looking for a good, consistent performance that sounds like I've played this in one take. The bridge, there's a problem. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do kind of similar to what I was doing before. I'm just going to break it into parts. I'm not going to worry about going from one part into the other part. So I'm going to start right here, right before the parts, and up until the next part here. And I'm going to start a little bit before. Came in a little bit early there, so we'll just start one measure before. Didn't like that. By the way, the hotkey I'm doing here, let me show you here. If you hit tab 3 times, after you hit space to stop recording, hit tab 3 times, going over to delete all, hit the space bar for yes, hit the space bar for OK, and then Control R to re-record. That's what I'm doing. I'm sure there's a way to do an action for that, but I'm so used to it, that's just kind of how I do things. Listen to that. So here's a part where I not only screwed up a note, but it's a pretty hard slide to get figured out in a recording. So it's a, and then I'm on the 3rd finger here, and I'm sliding up to the F sharp. And it's kind of hard to do that because I'm crossing 4 strings and sliding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, and I'll show you how to cheat here. Go up to this part. What I'm going to first do is I'm going to go to this part and make this tight and get that out of there. So because I know I'm going to be recording a bunch of this, I'm going to drag this all the way over here. But I'm going to only record part of this at a time. So I'll drag the whole selection out, but I'm going to only be doing one note at a time here. So I got this part in. And now I want to do the slide. So what I can do here is I can start at the same place, but then I'm only going to start on the part up here. So we'll see how this sounds. And I actually didn't go far enough over. So I complete my section, just drag this over one, and then go back here and do a crossfade over back to the left. And it should sound pretty decent. So that is how I'm going to do the entire song. I'm going to go from beginning to end. Any parts that I've screwed up on, I'm going to fix like this. If I have to do one note, if I have to do one measure, doesn't really matter. There's one other part of this song that I want to do. I want to do a wah part in the second chorus. Let me go get my pedal board, get all things set up, and we'll be right back. I recorded a little video on my phone because I can't move my camera around as easily, and to show you my setup. Sorry for the audio quality and video quality and moving around and things, but here is that. I'll kind of show you what that is. All right, so from my bass, I run a chord up and down to my Countryman Type 85 DI pedal. From there, it splits. The first, the XLR out with this blue cable goes directly into my interface, which is a Steinberg URRT4. The other one goes down to my pedal board, which is on the floor here. It goes from the right side all the way to the left side, and then all the way back up into my dusty Aguilar tone hammer, which is where I record most of my regular bass. And then the XLR on there goes all the way behind my desk and back around into the front of my interface. That is my bass chain, and that's how I record. So it's a pretty simple setup. It's basically, I'm using the DI as a splitter. I get the actual signal off my bass, and then I get the signal off my pedal board, and everything comes through okay. I want the DI in case I don't have enough beef to whatever I'm doing for signaling. Now, all my stuff on my pedal board has a dry and a wet, but just in case something gets screwed up, or in case the signal, like the envelope filter doesn't sound great or whatever, I just want to make sure that I have that as a backup. So we want to set up some of these tracks here. We're no longer using this main bass DI track, so I can take that off of record select. I want to record select these other two. Now the bass DI envelope, which is my main bass DI, goes into the third input, so I want to change this to input 3. And then the regular bass envelope is input 1. I just want to make sure these are okay. We are peaking a little bit on the direct channel, so I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. All right, we should be good. What I want to do is I want to record the second verse, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it yet in the mix, but I want to have the option to do this envelope filter sound for the bass. So what I'll do here, I just mute out this original track because we're not going to use it at the same time. I'm going to go 2 measures before, and I don't need to do any punch-ins or time selections or anything. I'm just going to record the second verse as is. Here we go. All right, that sounds good. Now, I have a number of different envelope filters on my pedal board, so I'm going to choose another one here. Or not. Let's record the same thing. Now, because I'm starting at the same spot, I'm going to end similar to the same spot, it'll create another take. So let's record this part. I have probably a dozen different envelope filter sounds. I'm just going to do 2 for the sake of this video. This is what this one sounds like. All right, so now I have 2 takes. I have one with the first kind of bubble wrap sound envelope filter, and the one with more of the traditional envelope filter. Volumes are not anywhere near as loud, but I'll deal with that in the mixing process because I'm also going to blend in the DI. In fact, you're only hearing the envelope filter. The DI is not going through to the video. And then when I'm in the mixing process, I'll figure out exactly when I want to mix those in with the regular bass track and then mix out when I come back to the regular bass track. It may be halfway through, maybe 3/4 of the way through, maybe the entire verse. I haven't figured that out yet. We're going to figure that out once I get more of the instruments done. The last thing I want to do before I call this done, after I've listened to it thousands of times, send it to my band, make sure that they, have listened to it and approve of it. I want to glue these tracks together and then render them for the next project. So I will right click and drag, highlight all of these, and then right click on anywhere on one of these when it's selected and choose glue items. And then once those are glued together, I want to render these tracks out. So what I usually do for my projects, and maybe I'll do a different video on this. I want to get everything for the guitarist to record his stuff with as few things as possible. So all the takes that I've done on bass, I'm going to copy this whole thing to a new directory and wipe out all the old files. And I just want to give him what he needs because it's easier to transfer on Dropbox that way, less files, less screwing around. So what I do is I right click on this track, I do render freeze tracks, and I choose the top one to mono strem tracks and mute originals. What that does is that creates a new track. It's in gray, so I want to color it blue. I want to make it, make sure it's lined up and everything and stretch the things over. And then I'm ready to give that track to my guitarist for him to record his steps. That is it for recording bass. What did you think of this? Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you use any of these methods or if you're kind of stuck and you don't know where to go. If this was helpful, if this was not helpful, if I made too many mistakes, if I didn't make enough mistakes. I'd like to hear from you guys. Until then, like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell thingy. Don't forget about the Reaper Users Group Discord channel. And until next time, I have a great idea for next video. I may be dressed just like this. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm going to record it right out when I'm done here. But we'll see you. Have a great week. Speaking of hot enough, my camera's about to overheat, so I need to take a break here. We'll be back at some point. Bubble wrap.